Okay, so we've got a Midland 3001 again. I've got one more of those Rotel 240s to do. But you've seen enough of Rotel 240s, I think, so we'll do this. I think we've got a realistic 1001 handheld, then we'll do the final RVC 240, and then we will be able to move on to some of the boxes. So better condition than usual, apart from the side screws have seen better days on this one. The radio has its original slide mount, which is quite unusual. This can't be. I don't think it's the bracket that was probably with this at one time. That could do with a respray. So these are usually a faff to get off. Let's just slacken that off. And we'll slacken that one off. And hopefully we can remove the bracket. I'll put this in the green bin bin, so I'll quiz you on that later. We'll do it with the standard mic. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll test it on PA with the factory original mic, which is in not bad condition for 40 years old. And it's March 82, so it's kind of later batch. I want to remove that. That will stay removed. It's our set, this set. And we'll get the side screws out, and remember it's one which uses the slide mount. So we've got a countersunk screw at one side, so it slides. I think he's had this mic there and it's been let to swivel around. We do have the RAL number, you know, we've covered this before. So for those people who need to touch up paint on Midland, we do know what the RAL colour is. And I've covered that in a video about a year ago. Blooming great big wasp in here. Considering the place is air conditioned, we don't have windows and doors that we normally open. That's surprising. Right, power on. We'll do 13.8 volts. This did come from a working source, so we'll get it connected up. And this will be, I say this will be a working set, so it's just a matter of a retune. I'm just interested to see how it performs as a before. And when we get back onto that Rotel 240, no doubt that'll be another difficult one, or maybe it's the one we can't fix. We can't fix everything. PA, let's plug in our PA speaker, which is mounted on the wall. Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2, testing 1 2 3 4 5. So that's the original mic. So we're going to now put the original mic on one side and do everything with the standard replacement mic. Then right at the end of the on the air test, we will go to the original mic. Testing 1 2 1 2. That's a bit crisper, I think. Alright, we can unplug that. We'll now plug in the extension speaker, which is for the. Let's make sure. Yeah, internal speaker's working. So we'll plug that in, and then we can get the results from the test instruments. So put picture in picture on. Key up. You know what? It helps if we plug in the test equipment to the aerial socket. So it's doing 3 watts exactly on channel 20. It's doing 3.05 on channel 1. It's doing 2.8 on channel 40. These don't have low power. Go back to channel 20 and 1.02. Deviation wallow. 1.8 kilohertz. We won't be doing the VCO. Oh yes, we will. We're going to fit the missing parts. Somebody's asked me to do that. 2779070. Test equipment's been on about 2 hours, so we've got no inaccuracy there. And we'll now go for the receive. So I'll go over to the frequency counter. And 2779125 it should be, but we'll set it off frequency, seeing as the radio is off frequency. So out there. Oh, it's changed. There we go, I'll do. Over to the sine nanometer. So anything under 1 microvolt is okay, and it is 0.91. And for 10 dB, 0.85. And for 20 dB, 1.65. Tight squelch. Is 30 millivolts, which is massive. And the threshold. Turn that down. Signal generator off. Squelch set. Signal generator on. It's 1.3. That really needs to come down if at all possible. So back to 100 microvolts, and the meter says 8. So for 9, what do I have to give it? It's not far out, this. It's 270. And the transmit meter is reading 5. Okay. So we are going to do the VCO, we're going to do the missing parts. But I think we'll probably tune this up to some degree first. So what we're going to end up doing is adding about 4 components so that the VCO can be read. When these are manufactured, they do this on a pin jig. It means they don't have to fit all the parts that we would have to read the VCO voltage. That cuts costs. And I never put the soldering iron on. This is the later one, which has the adjustment for the S meter. I'll tell you what, it's really nice condition inside, and it doesn't seem to have been. No, it still smells of new radio, to be honest. It doesn't smell of cigarette smoke, which can be the killer of so many radios. When I was in the television trade, the difference in the life of a television from a smoker and a non-smoker was so massive. And it's to do with the the high voltage that drove the EHT on the cathode ray tube. So we'll unsolder the speaker, especially seeing as we're going to be adding some parts in. We don't normally have to check the VCO on these, but if it's been messed with, we don't get these. You don't see them being messed with that much. But if I saw that the VCO coil had been really fiddled with, then it would be a bit of a red card to a board, and you'd think, is the VCO right? So what I'm going to show you is going to be quite difficult because there's a bit more wax in this than usual. So I hope I can pull it off. Anyway, we're going to go through the normal tune-up. We'll do that at the end. Otherwise it'll think in my little mind that we haven't made any progress on doing the radio. And I'm always looking at the clock. So, you know what? Let's start by putting it on frequency. So this is one that will still go despite its age. Plenty of room for it to drop for another 40 years. That's that done. See if we can bring the transmit up, checking we're on channel 20, which we are. It's about 3.4 watts now, just on those. It's a very nice example, this. So now we're at 3.9 watts. We've still got this one to go. And there we are at 4. that's 4 on our meter, that's probably 4.4 on anybody else's. So we've got 4 watts, channel 1, we've got 4 watts, and channel 40, just touching 4 watts. I could say 3.98, it's like that. So that's really good. And of course that's now it's warm. As it cools down it'll give more initially. So I will now see what we're drawing on current. Now it's tuned properly, 1.09. So it's not a lot of difference in current because it wasn't tuned up properly on the earlier stages. We've got an extra watt for another, what, 70 milliamps? Fantastic. I'm going to skip the deviation because it means putting it on the other test set behind me, and when I'm faffing about with the showing you how the VCO is done, we will faff about and put it on the test set behind. So when I key up, I want the meter to read something like 4, and it reads 10. Doesn't mean it's giving 10 watts out, that's absolute bull. We know it's giving 4. So there we go, that's now set. So we're going to go straight over to receive. First thing we're going to do is to 100 microvolts, we're going to set the signal generator because it's now on frequency. Or we can end up with it being lopsided. There we go. We'll go over to the side, the oscilloscope. And one of the worst things on the Maxon chassis is the detector drifts. So let's see how far it is out on this one. You know what? It's spot on. So now we'll go over to the synod meter. And let's put a lower signal on. We'll go through the front end. So we've got an improvement there. Wow, that was miles out. Drop the signal. Next one. That's a bit out. That's out. There we go. So with 100 microvolts back on the signal generator, let's set this S meter. Well, it's now just over the 9, and it is that adjustment when fitted. Spot on. And now while we've still got 100 microvolts on, let's do the squelch. So I want squelch to full, and then just the preset till that signal comes through. whichever way that is, it's that way. Drop the signal generator. I'll go over to the attenuator so you can see what's happening. So at the moment we're at 100 microvolts. If I drop that, see it's 100, it comes in. It's exactly as I want it. Signal generator to standby. Set squelch on the radio to threshold. Signal generator back on. Straight in. 0.3 of a microvolt. What a difference. That'll be Scratchy Corner, here we come. Not California, here we come. There you are, just showing my age again. Right, let's have a look at the cyanide reading now. Just turn the volume up a bit to get a fair reading. So we're now at for 12 dB. It's about 12. He's now 0.36. 10 dB, 0.31, and hopefully it'll still do 20. It's just not there at 1. Let's just go on the other scale. It's 1.1. So that upper one is all about noise. You could probably change all the capacitors in the receiver and improve that noise figure, but not necessarily improve these, so we don't bother. And thinking of capacitors, I think I've only ever changed one in any Maxon. I've changed one or two within diagnosis, but they were unnecessary. So they're really, really reliable, unlike the Uniden ones. So there we go. We're done. That's it. Quick, really, really quick tune-up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to do a bit of homework, and we'll just see what components I have to add in order to read the VCO. So we'll take a break and come back with some info. Right, so I've done my homework and done some big blow-ups of the circuit diagram. So what it says, these parts are fitted in some sets, but I would guess it's earlier production, and they thought, well, actually, you know, we could save 10 pence and not fit these. So it says VCO alignment is done in channel 40. Connect the circuit tester between test point and ground. Adjust 116, and it seems to be in receive, yes. So I think I've only done one once, and it was a Maxcom 30 which was playing up. So we need to make sure that the parts which are for the test point are there. So on the test point, you can see there should be a resistor 158, resistor 160, and capacitor 209. So let's have a look at this. Hopefully I've blown up the right bit. 158 and 160. 159. Pause the video while I look for these. As soon as I've turned the recorder off, got it. So it's right at the edge here. So you've got capacitor 209, which goes from that earth pad to that point. So there's 209 to the test point. So that pad is our test point. So resistor 160, 22k, resistor 158, which is 100k. So that is test point. So on the radio, let's put about 10 pairs of glasses on. You've got the varicap diode, which is there. You've got the capacitor there, which is 209. So that is 160, and that looks like we've got them in on this set. Well, I go to the foot of our stairs. That's 22k though. It's not what's shown. And what it says, let's just put the soldering iron on and melt this wax. No, they're not. They're not there. That is the test. Turn the power off. That's the test point. There you go. Complete pad with nothing there. Zoom in. There we are. Complete pad with nothing fitted. So it looks like the capacitor goes from there to there. Yes, it's the junction of 158 and 160 and 209. Well, they haven't fitted 208 on this set I've got in front of me. Can we see that? Yeah. They haven't fitted 208. But the junction of 158, 160, 209 is surely there on this one. We've got 100k from resist 158, and that is there. Just scrape away some of this crap. There are quite a number of different board layouts. They're all very slight. You know, like the early one doesn't have the S meter adjustment at all. Another one doesn't have the S meter adjustment on the board, but it's on the back of the meter. Then we've got this one which has got the S meter adjustment there, and it goes on from there. So at the moment we've got 208 not fitted, but that doesn't matter. So I'd like to say But in this instance, we can actually read it at the bottom of the 100k resistor just there. That's what I'd like to think. So I'm going to give that a go. It is a slightly different layout to what the service information shows. We'll get the meter out, power the set back up, and see whether it corresponds in any way whatsoever to what they say. I can't remember whether these are negative earth or whether it's a floating earth. So we'll just check that. Just go to the on and off switch. So it's a, I'll just go, we need to go back into full size. So you can see we've got 13, I've got the curly lead, haven't I, over there. We've got the 13.8 volt power rail. So if I go on there, 2.3 volts. So let's go to channel, what did they say? So set the radio to transmit on, receive on channel 40. There we go, just like that. In transmit mode, and then we should have 2.5 at that point in transmit. And look at that, we've got 2.6. So I do not need to adjust that. But let's just watch it move, because that's L116. So I'm going to melt the wax in it. Just to prove the point. You can see we can freely adjust that to 2.53. So adjust L116 to get 2.5 volts, put the radio to channel 1, and in receive mode check that it's dropped to about 2 volts. It's 1.4. Is that in transmit? No, it's in receive. So as long as the DC level stays between 2.5 for transmit and 2 to 4 volts, then it's set properly. But of course, what it doesn't tell you is that what meter they're using. Let's go in transmit. Got 0.1. So this is different to any other method. But with a working set, we've got 3.3 on receive, 2.5 as they say on transmit, and we've got was it 1.4 on channel 1 in receive? Yeah, 1.5, and in transmit we've just got like 0.9. I'd like that a little bit higher, but you know what? I'm gonna make that a little bit higher. It'll throw out our other reading at the top end. There we go. I've got 1 volt now. So at our other end, channel 40, it's 3.5. It's just over 3.5, and they say 2.5. That's my experience as to where I think it should be. So we've used the 100k resistor, which is in the position for resistor 160. Let's make sure I'm telling you right. 158, it is a different layout to what that says. So I've just had to scrape away a bit of this wax to get to the bottom end of that 100k resistor. So that's the point I'm using as a test point, and it's a very valid test point because it's giving me the swing that I'm looking for. It says the magnitude of the test point voltage swing is determined by capacitor 219. At the factory, the optimum value was found to be 27 picofarad. So, of course, it also what it's also saying there is there's some room for experimentation. So it's still not. It's not like with the Cybernet that this is what you do and it's always going to be that. And the same with the well, most sets. Same with the Unidems. It's on this. It said, well, we found that about 27 picofarad gave us the kind of swing we were looking for. But you will find some without the components at all. So there you go. So this one had sufficient components for us to do that test. But you may come up against a set which hasn't, and you've got to fit those parts. So I'm going to leave. This is all in the instruction book. I'm going to leave. What I'm going to do. We're going to zoom in. For those of you who can do screenshots, we'll zoom on in the instructions. I'll just disconnect that to make it a bit flatter, and we'll just zoom in. I'll put the test meter away. And we'll screw the set back together. And on this one, we're at this lower end, we're at 209, 160, 158 in this area. There's your coil L116. And then the circuit diagram. You see it says test point there between 158, 160 and capacitor 209. In our set, capacitor 208 wasn't fitted. So it's not like it's missing, it wasn't necessary. So this is something else. They may find they don't get the VCO swing, so they fit parts, don't fit parts. You know, it's going to be selected on test. There you go, a bit more useless information for everybody. So with that, we'll put the speaker back on. I'll be finding some aerosol fly spray in a moment. Now, my late mother, and bearing in mind she came from a nursing background, she was at the Royal Hospital in Sheffield, which was in the city centre, not anything to do with the Royal Hallamshire, which is a relatively new hospital. And she was there from, what, 1937 up to her, you know, finishing to have the children, as in myself and my sister, and then going on back to work. And she was a specialist in reproduction, which was quite embarrassing. But anyway, she did her nursing in those war years. And you know what? I've just totally forgotten what I'm telling you. I've just led up to it. I've just led up to some of the ridiculous things that they did by today's standards in the 1930s. I'll have to make a note next time I remember what it was. One of the things I can tell you is during the war years they had 3 X-ray machines, and those X-ray machines were made in Germany. So every time there was an air raid, and you'll appreciate that Sheffield was very badly hit, I had to take the X-ray tubes out and go into the bomb shelters with them. And by the end of the war, they did still have one X-ray machine still working. by that careful situation. We'll put these side things back. That's what they're called, aren't they? Now this is a really nice set. It's certainly better than average condition, apart from just there. Okay, so going to leave it at that for the on the air test. We'll plug the aerial in right now. Turn some of this test equipment off. Not that. Oh yeah, that's what it was. Aerosol fly spray. So that's what I was going to tell you about my dear mother. So I remember, you know, we might have a salad. She might have made a salad, and it'd be there on the dining table, and there'd be a fly come into the room, and there she would be with the aerosol fly spray over all the plates and cutlery and the salad and all the cooked meats or whatever were on the table. Spray, 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 spray. You know, how have I managed to survive? Wouldn't dream of that, would you? And there's somebody with all that training and all that knowledge. I had a boy to my 9th birthday party. Just trying to think what his name was. Just pop this back out again to standard position if we find a preset position there. Let's go through this. One Anna Roger. Some very, very distant, unreadable radio traffic there. So I've said before, local and DX. Local switches the RF gain in. DX is always at maximum, that has no effect. Filter, we just turn the squelch down. It's just a tone switch. We'll have it in the high position. So there you go. Yes, this 9th birthday party. Just can't think of the boy's first name. But I mean, when you're 9, you don't know what your classmates have, you know, had wrong with them. You know, things can happen. You can have your appendix out. All kinds of things can happen. You have your tonsils out. Well, this boy had undescended testicles, and he came to my birthday party, 9-year-old, and you know, it was my mother who dealt with this problem. Just imagine that boy coming to my door, and my mother opening that door. So pleased to meet you. Let's call him Stephen. So pleased to meet you, Stephen. And she, you know, that lad would think, ah! And could you just imagine my mum with rubber gloves going, you know? Oh dear, I'm surprised that poor boy didn't flee. But there you go, that's having an embarrassing, a mother with an embarrassing job. So thanks for watching a really nicely working Midland 3001 in far better than average condition.